Hello and welcome back to ThoughtBot's AI in Focus, a show where we explore tools, techniques in using AI in the products that we build or for the products that we build. And I'm joined again today by Rob Whitaker. Rob, thanks for rejoining me.
No, it's my pleasure. I really enjoyed Friday, so I was keen to come back again.
This is an early Tuesday edition of AI in Focus. And it's because I'm traveling for the rest of the week and unable to do it because I'll be at a conference in Austin, Texas, and we'll be doing a tech leader event in Austin as well, where ThoughtBot gets together friends, clients, people we know in the community. No, it's very informal. So if you're seeing this and you happen to be in Austin, check out thoughtbot.com/Austin for a link to that event and feel free to join us. We are working on ReadySetGo, and it is a Rails Rails-powered AI app generator. And if you didn't watch last stream, part of the idea is we're eventually working towards something that is end user facing, a lot like Lovable, but something that builds real foundational products built to ThoughtBot's best practices with test-driven development that can be put together quickly, but can serve as the foundation of your application going forward. And that's the goal. And what we did last week was we were just getting started, first hands to keyboard for code. And we didn't really know the shape of the problem yet and what the code was going to look like. And so we decided to spike things out. And we ended the session with a basic agent that we could tell it what app we wanted. It would generate a Rails app. And it could bundle install, run the server, and use Rails generators. And so I figure we'll start with a quick demo of that. And what we've done since that stream on Friday is we threw that spike away and we test drove a new implementation of that. Now that we had a much better sense of what it was, how to approach the problem. So let's start with a quick demo. And Rob, we're gonna then go into the code and we'll talk about, because I did the test-driven development, version, and then you did the pull request review. So we can talk about anything interesting that jumped out to you in that. So we have a command, ready, set, go. We'll run it. What do you want to create today? Last time we were doing to-do list application. What should we do this time?
How about like a recipe book?
Okay.
I've seen that used a few times.
Okay. So what this is going to do now is, and this is a change. We're now hooked up to Logger. So all the commands being run are logged. The format could be a little bit better, but we're able to see the commands being run, but the output of the command is not shown now. Still tweaking that a little bit, but so you can see it's ran suspenders new recipe book. It generated the core models for the recipe book application. I'll create a recipe model with common fields like title, description, ingredients, instructions, cooking time. Yeah, this output could be cleaned up. It then started the server and opened our browser to the application. And so everything is using Rails scaffolding. So we sort of know what this is going to look like and how it's going to work. It's going to be the basic CRUD. But that just did all that while I was talking. So now let me add a category model so recipes can organize by categories. So that's cool. It didn't just do one model. It did a recipe and a category model.
Is it still going now, or is it currently generating stuff in the background?
It is, I think. Finished? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, I was scrolled up. No,
okay.
It started the server, opened it. Okay, perfect. I've successfully created a recipe book application for you. Here's what's been set up. Recipe management, category management. So I actually don't see where the categories are. Maybe refresh. Oh, we're at recipes.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was at the point where it was able to associate categories with recipes yet. But...
No, yeah. It's not. And that brings us to today, which is we could tell it to do that. Oh. Ooh, I just hit enter with no command and it exited with a crash.
So before we kind of look at that, because I think we've mentioned three things so far. Mm-hmm. So I kind of started taking us on that side quest of, well, category isn't associated with recipe, and then we've got this error. And then we said we wanted to look at the...
I forgot to share my screen. Thank you, random LinkedIn user. I apologize. Let's actually, I'm just going to wipe out that project and we can do that again.
Okay. So my question is going to be, what do we want to get out from today?
Yeah. So the goal today is to be able to actually do test driven, have the agent be test driving and writing tests, and to be able to do more than just run Rails scaffold. So that's the goal for today.
Love it.
So let me move this up so everyone can see it. Okay, so we'll run that demo again. So we're running the ReadySetGo command. It says, what do you want to create today? A recipe book application. So we can see the commands that it's running. We see that it's running suspenders new recipe book. It generated that application name. We didn't tell it what to do. It just generated it. So it's creating a recipe model, a category model to organize recipes. It's running the Rails generators to do that. Oh, it just crashed again. Oh, because I didn't wipe the database when we started.
That's interesting because we came across that problem last time, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So we should note that. That's something that the agent is probably going to need to be able to handle and do. So it's saying that, yeah, because it crashed, that Rails server is still running, I believe. And so we also know that we need to do some process management with that Rails server.
Because that's one of the things as well we were talking about on Friday was, did we use spawn or fork? I can't remember which one. And we were like,
use
we couldn't
spawn,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't remember what would happen if the processes died. Yeah.
So I'm just killing that process. We should be able to drop the database now.
It's just where I have Snoop Dogg playing in the back of my mind while that happens. Just drop it like it's hot.
Okay.
It
still says it's being accessed. That's too bad. We've hit a technical problem, which happens sometimes when you're live streaming. Any ideas, Rob?
If you go to there isn't anything like in the browser, it's not trying to load the page, which is kind of like holding a process or something like that. Okay.
Well, it is still running.
The server's still running.
Yeah. So I thought I killed it. Maybe I killed the wrong one. We got the Ruby LSP from the editor. Let me just kill this console. I don't think it's...
Would it be Rails, not Ruby, that you want to grep for in the process?
We can check, yeah. It's usually Ruby, though. Yeah.
Huh. I know there's kind of some way you can kind of map back. Oh, actually, I think it's in thoughtbot.files. There's a way you can see what process is using what port. How does that work? So do you have do you use thoughtbots.files?
I do, yeah.
Right. While I wait for GitHub to click in, it's called What's in Port. There is you can do what's -in -port 3000. Yep. And it'll tell you. There you go. It's that thing there.
Nice. Good work.
Good work. I think.
I don't know why that wasn't showing up in my grepping for the PS output. Thoughtbot.files to the rescue.
All the time.
Put
a link in the chat, actually. No.
Okay, we've now dropped the database. Do we want to do that demo again, or do we want
to? I trust your judgment while I try and paste stuff into the chat.
Let's do it one more time. A recipe book application. So one of the things as I was test driving this, and we'll jump in the code in a minute, I started to get the feeling that this has been something we've been building up to for years at ThoughtBot. Okay, there we go. So it finished generating the application. It generated the recipes, and the looks like it didn't choose to generate a categories this time, which is interesting. And so now we have our application and we can do new recipes and create recipes. Okay. So I was saying, I feel like this is something we've been building up to for a long time because I started to pull in other, we were already doing suspenders, which gives us so much of the way that we want to develop Rails applications. But then even just for, so one of the things you mentioned in the pull request review was I introduced an open source library that we created, I think more than 10 years ago, called Terrapin, which is used for generating safe command lines from user input. So for example,
just remind me, before I wrote Ruby, I used to be a Perl developer, and there used to be a Perl library that would write your code in white space. And I just thought, oh, maybe it's written just all in white space. Because that's the sort of thing that as Perl developers used to get our kicks out of.
So I'm going to need to, I moved the the project location right before we started. And so the editor has lost the files. So I'm going to need to just quit and open Z again. Okay. So here's an example of what the code looks like for a tool. And that's what we did last time. We created a series of tools that the agent is able to use using the Ruby LLM gem. But this is an example of Terrapin. This colon name here is a symbol that will safely be replaced by the sort of user generated input that happens to come from the LLM this time. So the tools we created are hooked up to Ruby LLM. I ended up creating a ReadySetGo class. So we have the ReadySetGo command line, but now that calls ReadySetGo.setup and ReadySetGo.chat, which returns a chat that you can ask questions to. So that ReadySetGo setup makes a projects directory if it doesn't already exist, hooks up the logger that we saw to standard out, and then the chat starts a Ruby LLM chat, but connects our tools there. And one of the things that we talked a fair bit about on the stream last time as we started implementation was this idea of, you know, we may eventually end up with all this work being done in a Docker container or something like that, that is more of a sandbox. But for right now, we're just doing it on our computers, but we still wanted to have some, we felt like we wanted to have some safety built in. And so we can put limits on everything happening within the projects directory or the applications directory, that would be good. And so since last stream, we now have these helper methods within projects and within app, and it will change into that directory. So our tools, like running bundle install, for example, the syntax there is ReadySetGo.within app, and it gives it the app name, and then it runs bundle install. So the only thing that's input coming from the LLM is the application directory name. And we also now have some a basic check to make sure that that app name is only letters, numbers, an underscore, or a dash. And so it's not possible, for example, for the LLM to start trying to traverse the directory structure by doing dot slash. And the whole name needs to be that, so it's not even just checking whether it starts with it, because it would be possible for someone clever to do the app name, then slash, then dot, and start going up the directory tree. So we've got some basic protections in terms of that built in now. And we have a full test suite. We're using our spec. So taking a look at that, generating the new application tool, we're using a gem that I've used pretty extensively before on various Ruby projects. It's called FakeFS. Have you ever used it, Rob?
No, I hadn't used it before. When I saw it in the pull requests, I didn't even check to see who it was. I assumed it might have been one of ours.
No, it's not. It's not one of ours, but it is basically it. Well, it does what it says on the tin. It's a fake file system, and it replaces all the file methods once you are in once you tell it to, or when you're in a block with FakeFS. All file operations in that block are basically done in memory, and they don't really happen on your disk. And so it's important to keep that in mind, because that means that even the spec code isn't really doing anything. So once we call FakeFS with fresh, that creates a fresh fake file system. When we call make directory P in our spec, that's creating the projects directory in the fake file system, so that when the tool executes, and it, for example, maybe creates the application directory, that doesn't really happen on disk. In the case of the Suspenders new application, that actually never gets run, because at the beginning of our spec suite, we call a command terrapin command line fake, and that does a similar thing. Is it's not actually going to run any commands that we tell it to run. It logs them, and they're available. This is methods that are on Terrapin. You can say, did this command run? And it'll return true if it did. You can also have an array. There's an array of commands, and so you can inspect the array. That's useful in the general case, because if we want to know that commands executed in a certain order, we wouldn't just call ran. We would check the array to see the commands are in the right order.
I really like that feature, that fake on Terrapin. It was unexpected, but a nice little,
yeah. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. And so thinking about what we want to achieve today, let's go over to what we're targeting, which is this hello world target, we made significant progress last week, and while technically, because it only uses the scaffold, it is generating tests for the application. It doesn't run them. It doesn't look at the output of them, and it can't do anything beyond the scaffold. So it's not able to generate new tests of its own in order to do test-driven development. In fact, it's not doing TDD at all because it's generating only the Rails generator. So it's generating the tests and the code at the same time, which I think in the case of a generator is okay. But for code that's not just using a generator, we would want better.
Would you, when it uses TDD, would you expect, we wouldn't expect there to be a human in the loop. We just want it to kind of go through the process itself, right?
I think that's the goal for ReadySetGo. I don't know if that's achievable right away. We can try. We can see what makes sense, but yeah. So how do we get into this?
Do we want to TDD the TDD flow?
Yes.
Good. So would you use that? So I always write my test backwards because it makes sense for me. So I write my assertion first. So you saying that ran ? Can take an array of commands. Well, what would we expect those commands to be? Would we expect it to be, so on line 14, would you expect it to run rspec something and then before doing something else?
So when I do test-driven development, I don't run, I try to run, and we want to see a failing spec as soon as possible. And so, but I would never personally run the rspec command before I create that file. So I would create the file and write a failing spec, and I would run that spec and see it fail. So we can do that. Like, for example, say we know we're going to create a tool to write specs, right? So we have ReadySetGo as the application. What I would do for that is I would never run, okay, I know I want to see red first, but the red I want to see isn't running an rspec command to a file that doesn't exist.
Okay, yeah.
I would always create the file that's going to hold the test first, and I would write the first test before running an rspec command.
And this is to replace the current behavior that where the LLM is generating the scaffold, right?
Right. I think the tool for doing scaffolding can be available to the LLM, but it should be a choice of whether it uses it or not. And maybe one that we provide guidance to.
And so if I was just writing this code, the code that the code's going to write,
right?
I think my starting point would be a system spec or a feature spec to say. So if assuming that that ReadySetGo is going to, or our tests are going to try and create a recipe app. I guess that's the question. Like, what sort of app are we expecting the tests to write? Because then from there, I'd go, we would have, well, I'd probably have to check our guides to see it, but I think we normally would have like features / customer creates new recipe.
Yeah, it's in system now, our specs.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think that'd be my starting point, is to expect it to run that file and say, would we expect there to be tests in there already?
that's what my flow is. Like I'm saying, I wouldn't run an empty spec file. I would make a
Yeah.
pass at writing the first spec.
Yeah.
So I think we can do that actual flow here. It's very meta, but like let's actually so what I'm saying is it's not a system spec that we're doing, but thinking about we're test driving ReadySetGo.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I do it is I could use my editor to create a new file, but I touch the file that I want to create. So let's make a note. Like what we're doing is we're creating the spec file. So, and then we spec tools, and let's, I don't know. This is one of the things that we talked about last time. We don't know how fine grained our tools are going to end up. But do you think we should create a tool for generating new spec files, system specs, or just being able to create a file at all?
I would say create the system spec and then see what generalities come out later and make it add the abstraction later would be how I would do it. I'd probably call it create test, to be honest, and then but it'll create spec, but it only creates system specs for now, and then create spec. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is funny. Create spec.rb.
Spec. Yeah.
So thinking of that, okay, that was creating a system spec. We were creating our spec. So then if we go over to that spec, we need to require.
How long before it becomes weird to say the word spec?
It already did for me.
Okay, good.
Create spec. So it creates a new spec file. So fake fs dot with fresh do. So
this is actually interesting. So I think I was thinking of our generate new application spec as like a integration test. And so I was kind of expecting us to write something in there that would kind of TDD us to this point. And we might not keep those changes to generate new application, but I think I've seen it called like a transitional or transactional test. You might not commit it, but
that generate new application is testing just the tool of running suspenders new.
Okay. I see now.
It's not an integration level test. In fact, ReadySetGo right now doesn't have integration specs because of this loop. I didn't know how to write a test for being inside that loop.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm happy then. Just have to use manual testing for a bit.
So is there an rspec command for generating a spec file?
That's a good question. I always hand roll them. I wonder if you do have you got a Rails app where you can do like Rails minus T to get the tasks, then you do minus G to grep it and give it rspec. Did that make sense what I said?
Yeah. Did we delete we got our recipe book application.
Cool, lovely. So you should be able to do Rails minus T to get all the tasks.
Yeah.
And then you can pass it, but you can grep as part of the.
Oh, really?
You can do minus G and give it rspec.
I'm a real Unix nerd here, Rob. I use grep as it was intended.
Okay, yeah.
What is this showing me?
I don't think Rails T did what we expected. It's capital T.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't think that there was. So right now we can make,
May I ask, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Recipe book definitely has RSpec in its gem file, right?
Yeah, it's RSpec Rails.
Okay.
With Capybara.
Okay. I thought I'd check.
And I'm working from the outside in, like you said. So basically, what are we going to end up with here? So it's creating spec, creating the tool, and then you execute the tool with the file to create.
It's interesting because would it know?
It needs the app name.
Yeah. Would it create the file, or would it create, like, would you give it the file, or would it know to create the file when you do create spec? Would you tell it to, like,
you would need to, okay, I like your question. You would need, it needs to create a file name. It needs a file name.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, like, at what level does it, whereabouts in this code does it need to know about the file name? Is it the responsibility of create spec to know about the file name? So therefore it'd be in the expectation, but the LLM would give it something else.
I think the LLM would be able to give it any file name
Okay.
that it wants to create a spec for.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it should take the contents of the file?
Oh, no.
Okay.
So this is a tool. I don't know. Like,
so thinking
I don't know
about
right
the
now.
flow, what I would do is I would touch the file, I would open it in my editor, I would write the first spec, then I would watch it fail.
So is your yeah. I think so because I work backwards. I'm trying to think about what the expectation I would think it is at the end. And so I think if I was TDDing it, I would probably, because I don't know what I want to pass in yet, I'd probably start with I expect this, and then have like a whole load of hard-coded values in my implementation, and then go, okay, where does this hard-coded value come from? Is it something that I pass in? Is it something that's inferred from the code? So I'd probably start from there.
So you would start with this expectation that we expect the spec to, the file to be there.
Yeah, and then I would agree that with what you're saying, that I would expect the contents of that to be something. But I don't know if but at this moment in time, I don't know if the contents are being passed into the execute method, or if they're being created by the execute method.
Okay. Well, we can start here. And I think we need some more setup, but we can run the specs and see the failure and let that drive what we're going to do. So uninitialized constant create spec. I need to get out of the recipe book directory. So
do you ever, Chad?
Yeah.
Just write the class in your spec file and then move it later?
No.
Okay. Just me then.
Do you?
Yeah, sometimes. Like, if it's like a slower application, I might do it if I just want, because I know I just want that file. It has no dependencies or anything like that.
Okay. So we should note this in terms of the flow. The next thing I'm doing to make this test go and to do test-driven development is to create a non-spec file. So we're creating a tool just to create spec files. But if we
Hmm.
had a generic file tool, the next thing it would be able to be reused. Um,
Hmm.
so, but in terms of actually test driving Ready Set Go, so tool lib tools
So
create spec.
with that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
would create spec create in this context? Would it create model my app, or
That's
would
what
that be the
I do.
responsibility?
That's what I do.
Um, but because then this is different because this isn't creating a spec;
Mm-hmm.
it's TD like
Well, we're
test
TDing
driving.
Ready
Yeah.
Set Go. We're just using that as a model for.
No, so what I mean is that so obviously we're doing as we're going through the flow that the tool will eventually go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Ready Set Go does its thing and it starts to TDD, would you
Yeah.
expect that this tool creates spec, creates the test file, and creates the implementation file?
From where we started, we were saying the first thing we both do is create a system spec.
Hmm.
So I don't even know what a system alternate, the model or what file would be created opposite a system spec.
Okay. Okay. Let's see where it goes.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Um, okay. So I don't know if we need to include, yeah, we need to include Ruby LM tool. Um,
This is where I used to have Copilot in Vim and
yeah.
my editor of choice, and I just found the tab completion, especially when you're TDD, can just got in the way. I was like, I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
have to
one
turn
of the
this off.
reasons why I started experimenting using Zed because it was just over the top all the things in VS
Mhm.
Code. And so Zed is a little bit cleaner, still has a lot of the same features, but is a little cleaner.
Nice.
Um, uninitialized constant create spec.
Wasn't that the was that was the error before?
Yeah, it's the same error.
So we need to, in our ready set go file, there's like a place where we do like a load of require relative. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, good call. We could change this to be requiring everything in the directory if
Hmm.
we wanted. Probably want to do that in the future.
That's future Chad's problem. Yeah.
Subclasses must implement execute. So the thinking ahead about what this flow is showing us, after creating the file, we ran the specs. Then the next thing we did was we saw the failure and we edited the file.
Hmm.
Okay, wrong number of arguments given 1, expected 0.
Even an app name, I think.
It's yeah,
Oh,
it's coming through as a hash, but app name
mhm.
file. Okay, so it got to the checking whether the file was created, and it failed.
Mhm.
So do we create the file then?
Yeah, I'd just do enough to. Well, I don't even know how you. Off the top of my head, it's not something I have to do very often. Hmm. And that's to make sure we change into the correct directory and then change back out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also, off the top of my head, uh,
There's got to be a touch method, right?
if there is, it would be on. Oh, Yeah, this is a good point. We need to make the directory structure if it's not there. So that would be that's not going to work. But it's telling us. So I think it's file.dir name.
Okay. But okay, I see. Yeah.
If what I was saying was if there is a touch, I think it would be on file utils.touch. So let's run that and see whether those things really exist. Okay, so when it's trying to change into the directory for the app name, it doesn't exist because we didn't set it up in the specs.
Did we not put?
No, I started fake file system, but then I didn't do any setup.
Okay. Cool.
So we can, I'm not sure we want to stick with having to do this, but because we don't currently, when this spec runs, we don't have a projects directory, an app directory, or anything. So we can make that by, if we did ready set app path and we give it the my app name, that's going to create the projects directory and the app directory.
Cool. You want an extra parentheses on the end of that line?
Thank you. And then, okay, so then we'll run that and see. Okay, it no longer complained that the path didn't exist. Then it went to create the file, and the file doesn't exist.
So this is kind of, if you go to the create spec code, so instead of passing file into line 7, because I don't know what that is right now, can we hard code the string? And also probably, that's not a bad idea to read the documentation.
By default, creates an empty file for any path to a non-existent entry. One of the downsides of fake FS is that because it's not actually creating the files on your disk, you can't go and look at what it really did. So you have to within Ruby, if you want to do something like that, you have to do it within Ruby, within the block. First of all, I just want to fix something that's bugging me. I want to change this to be file name.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, because that was confusing me before, especially when you did this file.dir name. I was like, oh, is this expecting it to be a file object rather than a string? Yeah.
Right. So we're expecting the file to exist. I think I see the problem. We're expecting file to exist, but here we're not within the app directory. So it's checking at the top level of ReadySetGo for this file to exist.
Okay.
So I think, so this would be file.join app path. Yeah.
That's a whole bunch of nested.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no RSpec helper to do that. So what we can do is just
Works for me.
So now we're in the refactor step of TDD, which is important to remember in terms of red, green refactor. So I've extracted the app name variable. Now, Rob, this is a sidetrack, but have you started doing this?
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. The destructuring from
I both
Ruby.
like it and don't like it.
I think it's one. I like it when I've been doing JavaScript for like React Native projects. I think it tidies stuff up. It's also interesting that it makes you think about, from a design point of view, am I being consistent in my variable names?
Right.
Like, am I calling it something here and calling it something else somewhere else? And does it make sense for it to be called something else somewhere else, or are they the same? So, but the amount of it's interesting to me. I probably wouldn't do this. I would probably just leave those hard-coded strings in, to be honest. I think it tells
The
a
reason
different
why
story.
I'm doing it, my motivation for doing it is because I feel like when we know that there's going to be a lot of patterns in this application in terms of
Okay.
the way tools work and everything. And so I feel like doing this step exposes to me what those patterns are more clearly.
Mhm.
But maybe that's
Okay.
just me. But that's what I have in mind when I was doing it. Okay, so we have uh, a thing that creates a spec file. So when we did that, when we did that by hand, we then put a spec in the file.
Yes, the actual contents of the file, you mean?
Right. Do we
Yeah.
want to have that be part of the tool, or do we want a different tool for
I
editing
think
files?
for editing files, so
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. Like, how quickly do you want to go generic? I think this is the thing when I write code is I try to keep it as concrete as possible until
Yeah.
like the patterns reveal themselves. So I'd probably say write the code now as part of this, and then if we see that, oh right, we need this the same behavior, or there's similar behavior in this that we want to extract. I'd probably look at it that way.
Cool. So let's. Do you want to modify this spec to take the content and then check that its file has that content?
I definitely want to write the expectation that the file has the
Okay.
content that we expect. That much is true. I just keep thinking of songs every time something's said on this. And that was a bit of Spandau Ballet for those following at home. Yeah. Yeah. Should we give it a cheeky little hair doc
Yeah,
to
that's
kind of,
I.
yeah.
But I always, it's funny. Like there's certain things where the format of it just always trips me up, and I never know how to start writing a here doc.
That's what I would do. Probably, yeah, if we want to use spec there, probably use text. I always tend to use the gates as like the type of content it is. So for where you've got spec on line 15, I would just put text. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I always do try to do something meaningful like spec or
Yeah.
HTML or.
HTML makes, yeah, I have no strong opinions about that.
Okay, so
You
we
might
have
need
the
you might need a
expectation, so we'll run that and we'll see it fail.
as a caveat, we might need a chomp at some point on this.
Isn't that what this
I never
does?
know. I never know. I have to kind of wait for see how the test fails and then modify things.
Yeah. Okay, so the test fails.
Isn't the tilde to kind of ignore like the indentation on the here doc? I don't know.
I don't know. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I heard a hmm.
Did you choose to put context as the here block?
No,
Here,
I don't know what
is,
that was. Oh, it's because I typoed.
oh, did you?
I typoed context instead of content.
Okay. For now, yeah. Okay. So I think you're doing premature refactoring here. If I was really, if we were pairing, because I've seen circumstances where, especially like when you're doing with like Rails associations, where you put content in your assertion, in your expectation, sorry, I've seen that be unexpectedly nil, and it passes because of the thing. So I probably would have in the real
Yeah,
world.
I get your point. In this case, though, like I just ran the specs and it failed. So if I expected it to fail and it passed, that would be a flag.
Yeah, fair.
I would be less inclined to do that if I was working on a passing spec.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Yeah. Okay, so we have a failing spec, unknown keyword content. So if we go over to our create spec, we add that as a keyword, and we run it again, it's going to show us the next failure. So it expected an empty string to include that. So we can make that pass by writing out is file.write.
Well,
is that a thing?
There's one way to find out. Let's run the tests.
Well,
Run the
I'd like
tests and
to
see what happens.
know. I don't know. Let's run it. Uninitialized constant spec. Oh. Okay.
Is that
file.write is a thing, apparently.
Yeah, I was going to say that did not sound like that was an okay, but a question mark almost.
Yeah, because like the reason why I don't, because I looked in the docs, it didn't come up. Maybe it's over here. Nope. The reason why it gives me pause is because when you do like what I would in my mind would have file dot open, and then you're saying how you want to open it and stuff like that.
I wonder if it's like alias through somehow.
Yeah, or it's coming from IO. Appends the given string to the underlying buffer string. Yeah, I just don't like writing code that I don't know where it comes from.
It's fine. We have time.
But I think we can move forward. Okay, so we've got a spec file. So when we were thinking back to what we were doing before, we created a spec file with a spec in it, and then we immediately ran the specs to see it fail. So in my mind, then the next thing that we want to do is make a tool that runs either an individual spec file or all the specs.
Yeah, let's run all the specs. I think if it was me in the real world, if I just generated an application, I'm running all the tests until that becomes.
Now, keep in mind, we just generated the application with suspenders, so it does have some tests in it already, which is fine.
It has one test, I think.
Yeah.
The factory bot linting, right?
Yeah. Okay, so run spec.
You typo touch when you're ready.
Spec. What'd you say?
You typo touch.
See that? Look at that. It just auto-completed an implementation and not a...
Okay.
We need to...
Your file's called run spec, but you called it run specs. Which would you like?
Thank you. I think since we're running all the specs, we want it to be run specs.
Okay.
It runs all the specs in the application. So I'm realizing I realize one thing just now. If we go back over here, this is an incomplete tool, and we don't have specs for that because we didn't realize it and we didn't actually run the tool. But we need to specify params and their formats and their strings.
Okay.
And now that I say that, I realize one of the reasons why we didn't is because none of these specs have that either.
Mm-hmm. But, and when does it, and does, are they optional? Like, is it best practice to have them there? I'm just wondering why.
It won't work. It won't actually, the LLM won't be able to call the tool with those arguments if you don't give it.
Because the reason I asked that question is, why wasn't an error thrown at any point?
Because we never actually used it from the LLM, which
Sorry,
it never tried to call the tool for real. We
So
called
maybe-
execute with params already filled out.
Oh, is it because the LLM goes off to ask what are the parameters?
Yeah.
To explain my line of questioning. My line of questioning was, are we running the wrong method by executing our tests? If we ran a different method, would that have given us the errors that we expect?
Right. I don't think so. I think I was just looking to see if the answer to your question was here, where it says whether it's optional or not.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I don't think so. I think the schema for telling an LLM about the tools you have is a JSON schema, and it has the arguments and what their descriptions are. So what I wanted to see was, I don't know how to write a spec for that. I didn't write any so far. So I went to another spec file on a tool where we do have params, and I wanted to see whether it had a params method that we could look at.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't. It might be generate new application.params. We can see.
Did that just give you this line back?
It did. Which is not what I expected.
Yeah, you expect it to be on the class though, wouldn't you, from how it's defined there, right? I think. If you went into a debugger session, which I sometimes find quite helpful when I'm in a test to kind of.
Let's do that. It's going to say, I don't know how to.
I guess because you're inside the fake FS. Maybe.
That's interesting. Okay. That's what it looks like to me too.
You can see here online, there's a which makes sense.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's pretty safe to. Params schema. That looks promising. And then parameters.
Yeah, I've got the source code open over here of the tool to see if there's anything. Self.tools, self.params exists, which is what we saw.
Is it private?
It's not private. It's no, but there's also one called provider params. What's provider params?
Tool.provider underscore params.
Yeah.
It's empty. So when I did tool.param schema, I got uninitialized constant Ruby LLM utils. So let me. I think it's underscore LLM utils. Yeah, that gave us what I expected.
I think this is something we haven't explained on the last stream or the stream about that as part of the calls to the LLMs, there's an expected structure for what the tool is actually doing so that it knows what tool does what. And so every tool will have this JSON schema in one shape or another.
Right. I wonder. Error handling. Yeah. So what this param schema gives us is it's a Ruby hash that is the is a version of the JSON schema that's going to be sent to the LLM. I don't see another way we could write a spec to. Did you see anything else in the source code?
Nothing, not from a cursory glance. I'm having a look now just at that error handling section of the Ruby LLM, but it doesn't seem to be much there. Well, the documentation is good, but just for what we were looking for.
Okay, so in order to call params schema, we needed to require Ruby LLM utils. So let's note that. And then if we go back to our spec that we're writing, I don't want to change this necessarily right now. So this is the create tool spec, and I would do something like it defines params for app name, file name, and content. That's not correct.
I just had a thought to look at the Ruby LLM specs for the tools.
So when I was doing this, yeah, okay, it is new. So there's a syntax. What I was thinking in my head was there's a syntax in our spec to basically inspect hashes and get the values, right?
I think there's an easier way to do this.
Oh yeah.
So looking at the specs for Ruby LLM, when you create a param, that becomes a method on the object. So if you have, for example, what's the param on our create spec? Sorry.
It is app name, file name, and content.
So our instance of create spec will have a file name method, and so you could assert against that. Yeah.
And what would it look like?
That would be a string. If it was a normal string one. If it was an array, it'd be an array.
And what does it return? Because there should be a description and a type.
Okay, so like testing the description and the type might be more challenging, but you can definitely test that the method's created and it has the value you expect. Content return hand of dice roll.
So do you know the syntax for our spec, like hash checking?
In hash including to be hash including.
Including, yeah.
So I think it's still equal. So it's expect create spec dot new params param schema to equal hash including.
Okay. It really wants to autocomplete that, but what we're looking for here is type object app name type object.
Do you want the type? Isn't the type to do with the shape of the schema rather than rather than anything that we've done?
It is going to be something we define along with. So I don't know how prescriptive or how complete we want to be with the specs, but like even the description sort of matters because this is instructions to the LLM, and if it changes, it could change behavior.
So my question is about this line here, line 6. So I only like to have stuff in my tests that's either something from my test or something from my code, and this is from Ruby LLM.
You're right. I thought this was nested.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I thought you were talking about this type. I thought you were talking about.
All right. No. I agree with that. I really just like this test because it just seems really kind of not very ready. Like it doesn't read very well, but also I know that with all those nested hash includings, it would be a nightmare to maintain the error message.
Yeah. So what I was thinking of is what we would eventually, because we're going to need to do this a lot now that we've realized that we don't have any spec coverage for this kind of thing, but that the values matter, is like introducing a helper, an RSpec helper or whatever, for basically saying like, expect param defined with a type and a description or something. But in this case, we got this failure because it's nil. So oops.
That doesn't look like real Ruby.
Yeah, you're right.
That bit looks fine. Is it like
it's params do and string, and then these are symbols.
Yeah. App name should, they should all be symbols. App name, file name, content. Yep.
Okay. So now if we run our spec, okay, we got that uninitialized constant Ruby LM utils. So that should actually be in, because it's our specs that are calling that. Whenever I say our specs, I feel like our spec. So I think that require should be in here, not.
Oh, I see.
Because it's not our application code that's calling that.
Oh, I see. That's
it's
interesting.
Our spec code, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. So hash including is really powerful. Apart from when you nest it, like I've had it where I've had like have or like matches an array that has stuff inside it, and it starts to get a bit. Also, is it as simple as did you give it string keys or symbol keys in your assertion on the hash?
I gave it string keys.
Oh, that makes sense then.
And they are string keys.
Yeah.
So expected type. So it's this one. This is really hard to parse.
Because you've got matches inside matches. What does the very top matcher say? Okay.
So the failure is hash including properties, hash including app name, got additional properties, then under that app name description.
Could we grab what it's actually returning and assert against an equals and then make it more dynamic?
Sure. I was going, we could do that. I was going to suggest we could also make a method here that's doing that.
Okay.
Sort of as the prototype for our expect param. So it would take the tool, the name, the type, and the description. And then it would.
So,
yeah.
So, are you doing like more traditional Ruby syntax here where this isn't? Should this be a symbol? And should this colon be at the other end?
This colon should be here.
But this is supposed to be a positioned argument, the tool,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking.
Okay, cool. There was just a whole lot of typos going on, so I was like, I'd just double check.
There's a whole lot of typos going on.
Yeah.
So this auto completed, which is probably part of the problem, honestly.
So expect if we give it a tool.
So we don't need to do hash including technically. So this is what you were saying, that we pull out that and we just do an equal to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just ignoring the agent, the autocomplete at this point. Expect param and the tool. Oh, and for what it's worth, I think I think psychologically the reason why I just passed in the tool like this without a keyword argument is that if we ever want to make this an RSpec matcher, I think that's how they work under the hood.
Okay.
But I don't actually know. I just for sure.
Yeah.
So
the
name.
That was what was half in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, how is Chad using this? Like, is he going to be using it as an actual matcher, where like that's going to be passed in implicitly rather than explicitly? But no.
Okay, so tool param schema properties name expected that and got nil.
Expected to equal type.
Yeah, one's the
because it's passed
key in. and the other is what's passed in. But what's nil there is properties name, and we didn't get an error when it tried to traverse this thing, so that means that properties is there. But the name, looking up that by name is not correct. So I'm just going to add a puts statement for that so we can see.
Because the name's a symbol. The name you're passing in is a symbol. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't like the fact that we're passing a symbol in for like app name, file name, and content. Because it's not a symbol.
I lost my terminal. There we go. Okay. We're creating the spec. And now we realize we have we really got down into the bottom of the stack there. And we need to like pop ourselves back up. So what we were doing was we were writing specs to run specs.
Yeah. Just want to do a time check with you, Chad, as well.
Yeah. I want to write this, and I want to write the run spec so that we can have our agent, we can go back to ReadySetGo, have it generate an application, and write a failing system spec and see it fail.
Okay.
I think we can do that and then wrap up.
Okay.
Okay. It defines params. Actually, this one defines params of app name. So that uninitialized constant run specs. Cool. Lib tools run specs.rb.
Chad, I'll be right back.
Yep. Okay, so we need to, this is the same thing that bit us last time. So I think we're definitely going to want to always require all tools, but okay, undefined method expect param. I'm just going to copy that right now because we don't have a spec support directory yet set up and being included. So rather than add that, I'm gonna so the failure is that no specs, nothing's defined for that. So params do. Welcome back.
Hi.
Define. Okay, so we've got our param defined and we test drove that. So that makes me feel a lot better.
I assume you had to extract that expect param.
I copied it over because we don't have a spec support directory being automatically included yet. So, and I wanted to keep on moving forward.
Cool.
Okay, it runs all the specs of the application. So, I know. So starting from here, what we want is we want to make sure that these specs are being run inside of the application directory. And that's not going to work because the execute is going to go inside the directory and then come back out. And so checking for PWD doesn't.
But when you test that implicitly by your test successfully passing, right?
Well, what I was thinking was what we would end up with is
okay.
And the command would be, do you think we should hard code bundle exec?
Isn't the kind of the practice to use a bin stub nowadays? So you'd actually be running bin R spec, which I think is safer.
And actually, it would be this one.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I know from suspenders it actually runs bin Rails default to run the tests.
So that's what I thought we were going to end up with, and there's no check there to for the next thing we would write, which is the making sure that it changes into the directory to run that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you've got a typo on terrapin. You've got terraping, which I was really happy about as well. But no, yeah. I want terraping to be a thing.
Here. It's just command line runner.ran.
But you see your line 12 on that test that you were just in. Would that be helpful? Because you've done the same thing there, right?
Yes, I solved this problem already. So there's no guarantee that it happened in the right order, but I was comfortable with the idea because we could actually even do this: allow ready set go to receive within app and yield.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we expect ReadySetGo to have received within app with my app, then that is even better, I think.
Are you then stubbing the code under test?
This is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's using a ReadySetGo utility class. It's not stubbing the system under test.
I just want to check.
Yeah. Okay, so we wrote a spec. We expected it to fail. The reason why it failed is because we don't have an execute method that has
Wait.
Yep.
It's not the execute method. Was this you on in your test? It's doing run specs.new.
Thank you. Okay. So it expected with an app to be called one time and wasn't at all because we have an empty implementation. So if we, I don't want to autocomplete that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So then the failure is the command wasn't run.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the wrong. Actually, let me go over to. Yeah. So it's the command, then the arguments, and then you call run on it. Okay.
Where's my special button?
Wow.
There you
go. Okay, so we have the ability to create a spec file, to run the spec file. And did we fix the tool problem not, in both places, not having params? Params. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we need to do is we need to go to ReadySetGo spec. And what, okay, so that instantiates a chat with all of the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I didn't write a spec for the tools method. Should have caught that in PR review.
Yeah, sure. I do find sometimes it's really hard to tell if
Yeah, it was a big
the
PR
coverage.
too.
Yeah, I know. I just think I have to think about that. Like it's sometimes I just assume that you TDD'd it and therefore you would have done it naturally, Chad. It wouldn't have to
Yeah,
check
I
up on you.
mean, definitely. I think sometimes, I bet I introduced that tools method and that with tools in a refactor.
Mm-hmm.
And so the specs were still green
Mm-hmm.
and I was introducing a new method, but didn't write a new spec for it, which was my fault.
So it's not a fault, is it? But like, yeah. I've worked on projects in the past. It's been quite interesting where they want to increase their test coverage. And so using tools like SimpleCov, you can set a minimum coverage. And so your tests won't pass. And so like if somebody introduces new code, but doesn't include tests, then all the tests will fail until they add the test for them. And it can be quite a good way to, you can review it like weekly or monthly, or whatever, to slowly increase the test coverage on an application when that's the goal of the project. You have a closing square bracket on line 7 that's going to cause you a mischief.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have that spec. And so to add our tool, we want to add the create spec and the run specs tool. Okay. So before we run it again, we need to clean up
Mm-hmm.
db drop. Okay. We didn't add any instructions to practice TDD.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what actually happens now that we've given it the tool to be able to create a spec file and run a spec file.
Can I make an educated guess?
Yeah.
I think it will write the test afterwards.
Right. If it does it at all.
So
Let's see. Now we could say I want a TDD, but let's not.
Okay. Hey.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So the error is input should be a valid string. In handle parsed error, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Chat complete. So one of the descriptions is not a valid string. Do they all have descriptions? Did we forget to put a description on one of them?
We didn't change any of the existing tools. Oh,
No,
look,
that one.
description of the
Ah,
tool is
ah.
required. Okay. We should add specs for that because it was very clearly not having it was a failure.
Yeah.
But we also don't know how to inspect the description.
But is it not part of that payload that, so you know how we've, it's part of that JSON schema, right?
Yeah. I can guess, yeah. We still have our modified spec here that we can run debugger in. This one has a description, right? So let's just for see if it has description. Yeah. So it does have a description. So we could just check that.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Yeah, because before it wasn't enough to just get the value of the param. We wanted to make sure that the description existed as well, which is why we had to do a bit more.
It does not have a description. Okay. Then create spec. Okay. Let's try again.
Oh.
Okay, so it's generating with suspenders, new application. It's using the scaffold to generate a recipe model, running the database migrations. Now let's set set the root to recipes index page and then start the server. Okay. So
Just if you scroll up, it did say RSpec test suite setup. There.
Yeah. That's interesting because it's actually suspenders that does that, but it pulled that out. So it didn't do anything. So make a system spec for the functionality we have so far. Just to see. We'll finish out with a bang.
I wonder what a comprehensive system spec is going to be.
So I'll create a okay, it created it and now it's running and it crashed. Nice. It did run and you can see the failed examples here. So block in the execute. So it failed running that command. So it looks like...
Is that because the command returned, like, is it a non-zero?
Yeah, it's a non-zero response. And now I remember Terrapin raises an exception when your command you run gets a non-zero response. Okay. So we'll need to handle that. And that's actually like good because that provides a hook where we could then give that back. In other words, what I'm thinking is we don't necessarily want to send all the output of every RSpec run if it's successful. But if it fails, then the LLM should know that it failed. And so we can send that back, that output back conditionally. Okay. We should wrap up. Thank you everybody for watching. I don't feel like we were quite as successful as we were last time in terms of getting something running quickly. But I feel like we're still on the right track with this and in creating something that's going to work.
Yeah. I think it's interesting as we're having to step through what our normal processes are. I think that maybe next time it would be interesting to just have like an ordered list of the steps that we would go through.
Yeah. So here we forgot to look at the system spec. So here's the system spec that it created.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it looks reasonable to me. But there were 5 failures. And so it didn't, basically what that means is it wasn't able to one-shot testing after the fact, writing a spec that passed the first time.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because it isn't TDD. That test should pass. Okay.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We will be back on Friday of next week. And what do you think we should pick back up with, Rob?
Getting this to work, I think.
I think unless we make progress between now and then on that, I think we would pick right back up with getting this to work.
And then the other things
the other thing we uncovered was we went to go do this and we never told it. We never provided instructions from us, from Thoughtbot to the LLM about how it's going to do. So that would be the next thing too that I would say, well, it's not going to do what we want it to do unless we tell it to.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Thanks as always. And if you are looking for someone to help you create a new application or improve an existing application in design, development, or product management for Rails or even beyond, please get in touch. We are here. You can go to thoughtbot.com to get in touch. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry we went long. I hope we didn't overrun anything.
Yes, I've got a one-on-one in a minute.
Okay.
Are we still streaming? There's still like an end stream button in the top right corner.
If we are, hello everybody.
Hi. Bloopers. Yeah.